If you're preparing for the IELTS test, there is this one mistake that can absolutely destroy your band score on the IELTS speaking test, and you have to ensure that you avoid it at all costs. The mistake that I'm talking about is memorized answers. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about why memorized answers destroy your band score, and I'll also teach you a strategy on how to speak impromptu on the cue cards, even if the topic in front of you is something that you've never come across in your life. But before we get started, let me introduce myself formally. My name is MANIL. I am an IELTS trainer and also an admission counselor for students who are looking to study at top universities abroad. So make sure you've subscribed to the channel so that you never miss out on any of my videos. So why do memorized answers lead to a reduced band score? The reason is that the IELTS exam conducting body itself has told the IELTS examiners that if they recognize that an answer has been memorized, they should either ignore that answer and ask a different question, or if this happens on the cue card, they should restrict the test taker's band score. And in most cases, it will be restricted to band 5.5. Now, you might ask me, how do I know this? Well, I've been lucky enough to work with an ex-IELTS examiner early in my IELTS career. And the next question that you might now have is, how would the examiner know that I have memorized an answer? Well, first thing first, these guys know from a mile away whether you've memorized an answer or not. Also, they use comparison. What they'll do is, they will keep comparing the answers that you've given across different questions. Suddenly, if your fluency goes through the roof, your vocabulary is absolutely accurate, and your grammar is flawless, they will start wondering if your answer is memorized. On a cue card, similarly, let's say for section 1 and section 3, you've struggled to put together basic sentences, or you've always taken a lot of time between sentences. You've had to take a lot of pauses while you're speaking. But on the cue card, suddenly you give this answer where there are no pauses. You're speaking as if you were born speaking English all of a sudden. They will know that you memorized your answer. So that's how they know. So how do we overcome this problem? Because I know that I've seen hundreds of students sit down and try and memorize hundreds of cue cards, hoping that one of the questions that they'll get on the test will be from the cue card that they've seen. But life can be tough. And on the day of the test, the cue card that might actually show up might be one that you've never seen before. So how do you overcome this problem? Now, to explain this bit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a cue card on the screen for you to see, and I'm going to explain the strategy with the help of that cue card. So the cue card that you can see on your screen has been taken from IELTS Academic 11. Just before we get started, very quickly, let me explain how does the cue card section play out on the IELTS test. The examiner will begin by saying something like, I will now give you a topic to speak on. You will have 1 to 2 minutes to speak on the topic, but before that, you will have 1 minute to think for your answer, and in that time, if you wish, you can make notes that you can then also refer to while speaking. On the day of the test, you will have a pencil and or a pen and a scratch pad where you will be able to make your notes. Can you refer to these notes while speaking? Yes, you can. Will it lead to a reduction in the band score? No, it won't, right? So don't worry about that. Now, why is it that a lot of students struggle to speak for 2 minutes on a topic that they've never seen before? Mistake number 1. Students, the test takers, do not read the entire question, and instead they will see the first bit and instantly start thinking for an answer. Do not do that. It'll take you no more than 10 seconds to read the entire question. For instance, in this case, we have describe a house or apartment that someone you know lives in. You should say whose house or apartment this is, okay, where the house or apartment is, what it looks like inside, and explain what you like or dislike about this person's house or apartment. Now you know everything that you are expected to speak on. You will always have 4 things mentioned on your cue card. The ideal thing to do is say give 30 seconds to each of these, but how exactly do you go about doing that? This is where mistake number 2 happens. Everybody I've come across till date always has tried to think of the first sentence that they will use when they start speaking on a given point. And then They hope that they'll be able to say something from there on. But that strategy is entirely wrong, because the problem is, yes, you'll then be able to speak one sentence correctly, but what do you say after that? And if you only have four sentences, it'll barely give you 30 seconds of content. And then the examiner will be looking at you and you'll be looking at the examiner. And there you go, the band score is gone. So how do we overcome this problem? Instead of trying to think of the first sentence, think about the main point. What is it that you're going to talk about? So let's take this cue card here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plan my answer here, and once I've done my planning, I'm going to discuss my planning with you, and once I've done my planning, I will give a proper answer that you can then listen to and understand exactly what I'm doing. So whose house or apartment this is? So let's say I'm going to talk about a friend of mine, right? This friend is Suchit. Okay, we are friends from high school. What have I done here? I am not just saying, oh, this is a house that belongs to my friend. I'm going to speak about my friend, right? What is the main subject here? It is my friend. Spend some time talking about your friend. Share some information, share some details. You can write one or two things here, right? While speaking, I'm sure you'll be able to recollect additional couple of points. Where is the house or the apartment? So this friend of mine has now moved to Auckland, right, which is the capital of New Zealand, and he actually lives in a village, which is a few miles away from the city. And what it looks like inside, it's beautiful. It's an open plan house, and the windows are large, right? So I am thinking about some of the things that I want to say when I imagine his house. What are the first things that come to my mind? So I'm going to write a few of those things over here. And then finally, what do you like or dislike? Open space, right? Food garden, and a rivulet. So these are the three things that I really like about his house. So I have made these points now. What this has done is it has allowed me to prepare a sort of short list of points that I can keep looking at while speaking, so that I know what I want to speak about next. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a 2 minutes answer. My wife's going to assist me with this one. She's handling the camera here. I will not have the timer on the screen for me or in front of me, because on the day of the test, you too will not have an access to the timer. At the end of 2 minutes, the examiner will say thank you and you can immediately stop. But here, for the purpose of instruction, what I'll do is once my wife gives me this indication that 2 minutes are up, I will bring my answer to a conclusion so that you too can sort of practice doing that for your test. When she'll start the timer, she'll give me a thumbs up. Once 2 minutes are up, she'll give me a thumbs up and I'll bring it to an end. A house that I am very fond of is that of my friend Suchit. We are friends from high school. We studied in 11th and 12th together, but post high school, we chose different fields of education. So from there on, we've been pretty far apart geographically. He has now moved and settled in New Zealand, and he has purchased a home in the city of Auckland. Um, Saying that it's the city of Auckland would be a little incorrect, because the home that he's purchased is actually in a village which is a few miles further away from the last suburb of Auckland. And the house is constructed in the middle of this large parcel of land that he's bought in entirety. And the house itself is constructed on a hillock. And the reason he chose to construct on a hillock and not on a flat piece of ground was that there's a small rivulet, there's a narrow rivulet that flows right behind his house. So being on an elevated platform allows to keep the house safe from any flooding or related incidents. Um, Walking into the house takes you into one of the most beautifully constructed homes that I have ever seen. It is an open plan home, which means that the kitchen and the living room are connected, and the wall, so to say, that connects the bedroom and the living room is collapsible. So if he wants, he can make the entire home one single room. And there are large windows that allow a lot of sunlight to enter the house. So even in the very cold winters of Auckland, his home stays reasonably warm. And what I really, really like about his house is actually the open spaces all around it. So yeah, The bit about what I really like about his house is the open spaces sort of came just after my wife gave me the thumbs up. The 2 minutes were up over there. So there you see, I had my pointers in front of me. I didn't really need to memorize anything before I started speaking. Referring to these points allowed me to form my sentences as I spoke. Now, that was one cue card. I'm sure that you would want to practice a few more like these. What I could suggest is that you can reach out to me to discuss how I can help you prepare for your IELTS test. I offer one-on-one classes as of now, and you can click on the link in the description of this video to reach out to me. You can reach out to me for IELTS classes as well as for counseling to apply to universities abroad. My students have received offers and are now studying at universities like London School of Economics, University College London, Warwick, Edinburgh, King's College London. I mean, that list. I have some of the biggest colleges in the UK on my list. I also help students go study in Australia. One of my students who was otherwise struggling to get a decent offer, who had been told by most other counselors that she can only go to the worst kind of universities, has now received offers from some of the best universities in Australia, thanks to the efforts that I have put in to help her build the right kind of application. So I hope that what I shared with you today you found useful and you'll be able to apply it to some extent. I definitely recommend that you do some practice, get some feedback from a proper trainer. That will definitely help you get the right kind of flow. And remember, the IELTS test is a very expensive test. A test in India, it costs 18,000 rupees per attempt. So you definitely don't want to be taking these attempts over and over again. Make sure you get the right kind of guidance before you go appear for the test. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you subscribe to the channel so that you can see me in my next video. Until then, you take care. Bye-bye.